Hi guys, Hamid here. First of all, I'd like to thank iOS for this great opportunity to invite me as a speaker of this great event, Orthobyte 2020. And also I want to thank every one of you to being here and to spend your precious time with me. I hope I could add something in your professional life after this lecture. And the topic of my lecture today is double slot bracket, a bracket endless possibilities. What I'm going to show you is a new device that we create here in Brazil. We create and develop here in Brazil, which we think that could help you in your biomechanics. Okay, so I will introduce myself a little bit quick. My name is Hamid. I'm an orthodontic specialist here in Brazil, co-author of the double slot bracket, and also co-author of the double slot book, Innovative Concepts in Orthodontics. I'm also professor of the postgraduate course in orthodontics here in Brazil, and professor of excellence in self-ligated brackets also here in Brazil. Here's my family. I have a 3-year-old daughter that called Pietra, a wife and 3 dogs, and they are the reason what I'm here doing today. Actually, they are the base of my life, and everything that I do for them. So I really appreciate and I thank God for having them on my life. This is some of photos of my colleagues and me with our students here in some courses. And actually, I am from Brazil, as I told you before. I'm on deep south of Brazil in a state called Rio Grande do Sul, and the city which I am located here is called Venâncio Aires, and we are far away from Brasilia, which is the capital of Brazil. Those are a little bit of some photos here in Brazil. I hope someday you can join us here. You all are invited to come and to see the beautiful things that we have in our country. I want to start by quoting Albert Einstein, which is a phrase that I really love, which is, invention is not the product of a logical thought, even though the final product is tied to a logical structure. So basically what it is mean to me is that every idea that we have, no matter which moment in our life, every idea comes gathered by a logical structure. Every idea, every creation is related to turn more easy our life, and this is all about the double slot bracket, because once we have the idea to create the double slot bracket, actually we try to gather a lot of things that was already established in the history of orthodontics. So we took some ideas just like the 22 slot, the 18 slot, the idea of the self-ligated passive and interactive system, the use of the dual arch or the 2 arch wires at the same time, as we call the overlay. We also use the idea that is established on the history of orthodontics, which is the bidimensional technique, that is the use of 2 different sizes of slot in the same patient. Actually, the bidimensional technique, it means that we will use an 18 slot on the anterior teeth and a 22 slot on the posterior teeth. Okay, and we also think about the use of segmented arcs and the straight wire technique. So by gathering all that information in 2014, me and my 2 other colleagues, here you seen Shuni and Zuki, which are part of my group here in Brazil. We have a group, the 3 of us, and on 2014 we accomplished one of the most important things in our professional life, which were the patent of invention of the double slot bracket. So as I told you, we took all this bunch of ideas that was already established by the greatest names of orthodontics, and we tried to gather all in the same piece. And after a while thinking and imagining and creating and talking, we came up to this final product, which is the double slot bracket. So it's like a puzzle. We gather just different things and we try to put inside a new device, which is today the double slot bracket. So what you're seeing here in the screen is the first double slot bracket, actually the first bracket that has two open slots on the same device. Okay, so this is was our idea, our project of life, and we achieved that, and we called DSC, which is the double slot conventional bracket, because it's a conventional system of bracket. And the most important thing is that this bracket, he don't have just two slots on the center of the piece. We put two different sizes of slot in the same device. So what you're seeing here basically is that we use the 18 slot in one part and the 22 slot in the other part. So the most gingival, the most central slot, it's an 18 slot, and the most occlusal or incisor slot, it's basically it's a 22-inch slot. So we have not only two slots, but we have different sizes of slot, and we call that this is the only bidimensional bracket that exists in the world nowadays. And what are the options that we have when we work with a double slot conventional bracket? So if you are a fan of the 18 slot, you can use a double slot bracket by using only one slot during your whole treatment. So you can use the 18 slot, that is the most gingival slot, during your whole treatment. You can use only this slot by doing all your treatment in your patient. But if you are a fan of the 22 slot, you also could use the double slot bracket by using only the slot more incisor or occlusal. So you can do all your work by using only the 22 slot. But here begins something good on the double slot bracket. You can work with the bidimensional technique by using only one bracket, because we know that when we want to use a bidimensional system of bracket, we have to get two different sets of brackets. So you have to buy an 18 set of bracket, and you have also to buy another set of bracket of a 22-inch slot. So you have to mix it up and gather in your patient, and you will spend twice because you had to get two different sets of different sizes. And with the double slot bracket, you achieve just one set of bracket, and by using the double slot bracket, you will have the two sizes in the same slot. One of the most important thing for me, actually, in my opinion, it's that you can use, and I can use, two arch wires at the same time. I think this is one of the major advantage of the double slot bracket, because it's not something new, the use of two arch wires at the same time. The problem is that when we want to use a double arch in a single slot, we have a great problems in that kind of situation, because we know that we don't get to put two largest arch wires inside the same slot. But this becomes different when you work with the double slot bracket, because when you work with this kind of bracket, you have not only one slot, but you have two, and you can use two arch wires in different slot, and this opens a big diversity of alloys and sizes of arch wires that you can use in your treatment. Okay, and on the last thing, one of the greatest things that I will show you before after in my clinical cases, it's that we can vary the slots and control the vertical movement of our tooth. Okay, so when it comes about biomechanics, there is a lot of things that we have to be aware. There is a lot of words that we have to think of when we do our work in our patient, such as direction, comfort, force, the resultant anchorage moment, center of resistance, tipping, everything this is that is written on the screen, we have to think of when we do biomechanics, because there is something very important when we work with any biomechanic, and this thing, it's called control. So I will quote to you 4 principles of my own that I think that is very important to be aware when you do biomechanic and is related to control. So the first principle that I will talk to you about, it's control of anchorage. So there is no way to do any kind of biomechanic without anchorage. So you have to get a good control of anchorage in your system. The second principle, it's the tooth or teeth movement. For each kind of biomechanic, we have to control the direction and the resultant of the tooth or teeth movement, okay? The third principle, it's the friction or controlling the friction. And I want to say to you that is not about if we have less or more friction during our treatment. I think the most important thing is to know when we have to get more friction and when we have to get less friction, and try to manage the friction. So it's like a managing control of friction. This is the third principle. And the last but not less important, I think one of the most important thing is that we have to control the force, because we are not moving objects here, we are moving teeth or tooth. So the controlling of force, it's a very big deal, okay? And when it comes of biomechanics, I think the best words that is self-explaining in orthodontic treatment is biomechanic, because if we split this word into two, we are going to see what I'm talking about. So biomechanics means bio and mechanics. So we are applying mechanic physics on a biological system. So we are not moving objects, as I told you before. We are moving tooth or teeth, and this tooth is inside a dental complex alveolar kind of thing that is surrounded by bone, PDL, nerves, arteries, and everything. So we have to take care about force. We are doing physics on a biologic system. And I want to show you some cases of my own here and try to explain how can we control those four principles by using the double slot bracket into of each case that I will show you, okay? So the first case is that patient that you're seeing here that have the upper right molar extruded, and in order to put an implant on the lower arch, we have to intrude a little bit. And you see here the models, and you see that I pass a line through the occlusal plane, and the molar, it's a real extruded, not too much, but a sufficient kind of extrusion that maybe will get a little bit problems to put an implant below it. So we have to put it on this molar on his right position. And of course we have to get plans in order to do a great biomechanics. So the plan A that came in my mind, it was the use of mini screw. So at the right moment that I saw the case, I think, well, I'm going to put here 2 mini screw or 3 mini screw, and I will intrude the molar. So this wasn't possible because the patient refused to use the mini screw. So I have to came with a plan B, and I think what I can do in order to get control of anchorage and at the same time get control of the teeth, of the tooth movement during my biomechanics. So the plan B that came in my mind was the use of 2 arch wires at the same time. And I think everyone knows how it works, but I will explain to you. Actually, the 2 arch wires at the same time has a simple way of work. So in one hand we have a large, normally and frequently a stainless steel arch wire to anchorage our teeth, and on the other hand we have normally a nickel titanium thermal activated wire to move our teeth. So it's basically, and it's very simple, the 2 arch wires at the same time. Some of you knows as piggyback technique as well, okay? So I'm going to show you how could we work by using 2 arch wires in a single slot bracket. So in that example I am showing you how can we do this kind of treatment by using 2 arches and 1 slot bracket only. So normally we had to choose our anchorage wire, which we use the 17x25, and the other one, it has to be a little bit more flexible wire, which is my 14. So we start the mechanics like this, and what you're seeing on the right side of your screen here on the bracket, you see that here I have my 17x25 and here I have my 14, and both of them are inside the same slot, okay? So at that moment I start biomechanics, and you see that I control my anchorage because the tooth here, they did not extrude it and my molar got intruded, okay? But once I get no more potential of intrusion because my wire doesn't have more force to intrude the molar, we have to get another wire on the place of the 14. So obviously after the 14 we will use the 16. So what you're going to see on the right side on the screen on the bracket, you see that I'm going to change my 14 for the 16. And here begins the problem, guys, and you know what I'm talking about, because it's very hard to put two largest wires inside the same slot. It's a very difficult thing because they don't fit, and they really don't fit because geometrically the size of the slot, it's not enough to get two arch wires such as the 17.25 and the 16. But I had to use the 16 because my 14 doesn't have more potential. So it's very often and common that the orthodontists change the anchorage wire, which is my 17.25, for another one thinner. And normally this another one wire is the 18 stainless steel rounded wire. And here we have a problem, because in order to get two wires inside the same slot, we have to get more thinner wires, okay? So in order to them to fit inside the same slot, I had to put an 18 and I had to put the 16. But the problem is that I will begin to lose control of my biomechanic, because at the time that I put my 18 to anchorage, my 18 doesn't have the necessary force to maintain my anchorage system. So what is going to happen is that I will not have the intrusion, but on the other hand I will have the extrusion on the teeth that were anchoring by the 17.25. So here I lose all the control of my biomechanics, okay? And the reason I get the loss of the control, it's because I had to put a thinner anchorage wire in order to get two wires inside the same slot. So the problem here is the size of the slot that doesn't allow me to put two largest wires at the same time. So I had to use the plan B, but I didn't use a single slot bracket. I actually used a double slot bracket. So I will show you how we can do the same biomechanic of intrusion by using two arch wires and not a single slot bracket, but a double slot bracket, okay? So first of all, I wanted to show you that this bracket that you are seeing here, it was the first bracket that we developed. So this is the double slot self-ligated bracket, okay? So this bracket was the first bracket that we worked almost for 5 years, and the most of the cases that we have, we made by using this bracket. So what happens here is that we don't have this bracket anymore. So the double slot self-ligated bracket we took out of the market because actually we are trying to improve the device, the design and everything. So we took out of the market. We don't have to sell this bracket anymore, and we will launch another double slot self-ligated bracket, I think next year, okay? So this bracket came first, and then we launched the conventional bracket that I showed you before, and the bracket that we have today to work is the double slot conventional bracket. But I had to show you that bracket because most of the cases that I will show to you was made by using the double slot self-ligated bracket. And I want to say to you that every case that you'll see today that I use the double slot self-ligated bracket, you can do exactly on the same way using the double slot conventional bracket. The only difference is that on the conventional bracket you had to use a elastomeric ligature, okay? But it's the same anchorage wire, it's the same wire that you use to move, it's the same way to do the biomechanic. The only different thing is that you have to replace the self-ligated double slot bracket for the conventional one. I will explain to you. Okay, so here is the case. As you see here, I am using, as I told you, the double slot self-ligated bracket. But if you had a case just like that, you may have to replace this bracket here, the double slot self-ligated, for the conventional one. It's the same sequence, okay? So be aware on the sequence and not only on the bracket, okay? Take a look here. So first, we align and level all the teeth without the molar, and once I got all leveled, I can start my biomechanics. So here I start my biomechanic by using a 17x25 as my Anchorage wire here, and here I use the 14 night tie, okay? So here I have my Anchorage system, and here I have my second arch wire, and you see here that they are on different slots, okay? Here I have one slot, and here I have a second slot, okay? So after a month, what we get was that. So on the first month, you see that I were using the 17x25 on this slot and the 14 on this slot, okay? So after a month, I just changed the wires to another slot. So what you're seeing here, it's just the 14 that were on the lower slot, and I put on the upper slot. And I did that to get more potential of my 14 of night tie. So once I got the 14 that was under the slot and I put it on the other slot above it, I create a deflection on the wire. And you see here that once I got this deflection, I potentialized. I created a little bit more force of intrusion. And the most important thing, I did that without changing the size of the wire. So I just, by changing the wire or varying the slots, I could add force without change the wire, okay? So after 4 months, I got this result, okay? So I got actually the intrusion of the molar, and you see that everything that I quoted to you before of my principle was a 10, because I got the Anchorage control by the 17x25, I got a very good control of my molar. The friction here, it doesn't matter, because in that kind of situation I didn't expect anything about the friction, but about the force, because I were using the 14 night tie, this wire gave me a constant and gradative force during my biomechanics. So I don't have to get any concern about forces, because by only using the wire and the type of the wire, the alloy of night tie, he gave me a very biological force, okay? So one of the important thing here also is that I just used one bracket and 2 wires to do this biomechanic. So I didn't use anything at all, just like I didn't use mini screw, I didn't use transpalatal arch, I didn't use any other extra accessories to do that kind of mechanics. So by using only 2 wires and 1 bracket, I could turn my biomechanics so simple and so easy and comfort to my patient and to me, okay? This is a very important thing. So let's go to the second clinical case that I have to you guys. You see here a beautiful girl, and you see by the photos that her occlusion, it's a very good occlusion, right and left side of a class 1 of canines and molars, and you see that is missing the upper right canine, okay? So he's impacted here. You see that he may establish and located here on the palatal area, because I have a little bit more dimension of the size of this part here, okay? So by the x-ray I could see that the canine is impacted. And one tip here, never use x-rays to do or to locate canines, please. Every time ask for CBCT. It's a very important thing to see exactly the right place of the canine. And another thing is to see the relationship of the canine with the root of the lateral, okay? To see if there is no resorption already exists on that area. So by establish this kind of thing and diagnose, I start to do my treatment. So I start by align and leveling all the teeth. What you're seeing here on this photo, it's basically the use of a open coil spring, but this coil spring is just passive, only to maintain the space. And once I got all aligned and all level, I can start my biomechanic. So at the same way that I use the 17/25 on that case on the intrusion of molar, I will use here the 17/25 also, because it's the best wire to get a good anchorage. Okay, so here I have my 17/25 wire here of stainless steel, and here I have a 16 night tie in order to start the traction of the canine. Okay, one of the important thing here, and you have to be aware, do not deflect too much your night tie wire, because of two things. If you deflect too much, you will create a larger force, and that is not good to your biologic system. Okay, the second thing, as much as you deflect your your wire here, you will create on that area and that area notchings, like you will create angles of 90 degrees, and it's so very hard, because once you get this kind of deflection, you can break your wire, or even you can establish barriers to this wire to slide back, because you will create more friction between the wire and the bracket. So try to work with a soft deflection every time. Okay, so once I have here, I am tracking the canine. You see here that once the canine comes in the mouth of the patient, I start to use a bracket in order to get a rotation. Okay, this is my way to do. So you understand that on this photo here, I was working with a continuous stainless steel 17/25 arch wire, but once I got the bracket here, I cannot use the continuous arch wire. So you have two options. You may do a bypassing here, okay, just to not contact the wire and the bracket, or you can do such as I did. You can segment the stainless steel 17/25 wire. So I segmented here, okay, and I segmented here on the both sides. I segmented, so I have part of 17/25 in one side and part of the 17/25 in the other side. So I have two parts of the same wire, and I release the canine here, and with the use of a continuous here arch wire, that is my 16, I can use the force to rotate this canine. Okay, so you see that I'm using segmented arcs in both sides. In the second place, I am using a continuous arch wire as well. So I am working here not only with segmented arcs, but with a continuous arch as well. So after a few months, the canine was very good position, as you see here, and once I got the canine in his right position, I can remove all the wires, and I can just realign and re-level the patient. Okay, so it's a new alignment and a new leveling after we finish the biomechanics. So once you got all your sequence of arts here, you can you see that it's a very established line. I just have to get torques and everything. So once you have everything done, of course you request an x-ray and panoramics to see the parallelism of your roots, and if you see that it's quite good, you can remove, as you see here, and we achieve great results on that patient. So I establish not only the class 1 on the both side, but one of the most important thing in that case, and I'll show you here, is that because I used a very biological force to work on this biomechanic, you see here, guys, that the canine that I tracked, which were that one, and the canine that was in already her mouth, has the same size, the same shape, the same level of the gingiva part. So by using biological force, we can establish a static kind of traction, because you know, when we track canines, we have to track not only the canine itself, but all the complex that surround the canine. Okay, so you have to get everything on his right place, because if you tract only the canine with big forces, what you're going to get on the end of the treatment by using forces, great forces, you will have a long crown on the side that you tract, and on the other one you have the right one, the right canine. So try to work with soft forces to get this kind of results here of your canine. Okay, and on the end of treatment I put it fixed retainer on the upper arch, because she had a little bit of diastemas. I didn't want to that open, and on the lower arch I use also fixed retainer to get my finishing case. So this is her smile. I am so happy for this case. So I got all the principle that I took about. Okay, so control, tooth movement, friction, and force was achieved. This is another case that I want to show you here, and this case actually it's a canine traction, but I used here a conventional bracket. So here are the CBCT. I will pass this, and here's the case. So this case I want to show you because, as the same case that I showed before, the previous case had a self-ligated bracket, and this one had a conventional bracket. But you'll see that it's likewise, it's the same thing. The only difference is that you have to use elastomeric ligatures. So we have the diastemas here that we can shut down by using open coil springs, and once you get all aligned, we will start the same way the biomechanics. So I'm using also the 17/25 to Anchorage, and here I'm using the 16, and on the other part I am trying to track the canine back to release the root of the lateral, okay, because I cannot put him in his right place here. So we move along, we just change. You see here that I have the two wires in different slots. So the only thing here is the elastomeric ligature. So here I have my rounded arch wire that is actually moving my canine, okay, you see here. And this is a very big important photo. I will show you why. I have here two photos, and I put it one up another. So what you're seeing here, it's 1 month that we put this wire, and as the canine is positioned forward, the wire had to slide back. And in order to create less friction by managing friction, as I told you, in that case we don't have to use here elastomeric ligature, because by changing the elastomeric ligature and using metallic ligature on these two bicusp here, I can reduce a lot the friction, and this wire could slide back. So what you're seeing here was on the first month, and here below it on the second month you are seeing actually the excess of wire once the tooth move along and the wire slide back. So by using just this kind of thought and changing the elastomeric ligature by a metallic ligature, you can manage friction, as I told you, managing friction. Okay, so here the canine was basically in his right place, and we are tracking the second one, and this case is not finished. I'm sorry, because we started with this case about a year ago. So we are at that moment here, we are on that place. This canine is quite better, and you see as such as the other case, I didn't use nothing but two wires and a bracket. Okay, nothing about any transpalatal arch, lingual arch, or mini screw. Okay, so my final case, guys, I want to show you. It's this girl that has not this occlusion. Actually, she had this ceph, and she had a big protrusion and big proclination of the anterior teeth. And here is basically she has a 100 degree of class 2. It's a class 2 of 100%. Okay, and I on my plan, I plan to extract two upper premolars, and also you see here that she has a extruded 4 lower incisors. So we are going to do the retraction of the anterior teeth, and we are doing the intrusion of the lower 4 incisors. So we are going to put the brackets, likewise is the self-ligated bracket, the double slot self-ligated bracket, but as I told you, you can use at the same mechanic the double slot conventional bracket with the same sequence. So as I told you before, we align and level all the teeth, okay? Once you get all aligned and all leveled, you will see that we will start the intrusion on the lower arch. So here I am using the 17x25 and the 12 of night high, and here are the sequence of photos I just wanted to show you. And once you get the intrusion, we have to do, as I told you, this bypass in order to avoid the contact of the bracket and avoid the movement of the anterior teeth. So this bending is just to avoid the contact between the wire and the bracket. And here I'm using also the wires, and you see that it's very common. And this is a very big moment for me, and I want to show you. As you see here, that I have this wire passing from this slot to this slot, and I already have available this one. So once I have this wire passively, on the next month, the only thing that I will do is passing from one slot to another one. So this wire was actually on this slot, and I just passed to the upper one in order to potentialize and deflect a little bit, okay? So this is the sequence of photos of the case, and you see that the upper arch I am retracting and it's almost finishing, and on the other hand, I am finishing the intrusion of my lower 4 incisors. And this girl, she thinks to be pregnant, and she asked me to remove her appliance, so I asked her to do before a new documentations. And here I have the case finished. I'm sorry for the photos, but it was the best I could get because she was pregnant at that time. So after 1 year and 8 months, I got this result here, guys, by using just one bracket and 2 wires without any help of any other auxiliary extra accessory. Okay, so here I have the side photos, and here I have the intrusion photo, the x-ray to prove you that doesn't have any resorption, the ceph that shows you that we reduce a lot of the protrusion, and here are the final photos. Okay, so guys, I wanted to thank you all for this moment. I think we are just reach out the surface of the double slot bracket, and by summarizing, I wanted to say to you that by using the double slot bracket, you can work with any slot that you want or request, or either 18 or the 22. You can use the bidimensional technique by using just one bracket. You can work, as I told you, with the segmental or continuous or both arcs at the same time in different slots. You can use the 2 arch wires at the same time on different slots. This is a very important thing. You can vary the slots, as I showed you that we can vary the slot whatever we want to control the vertical movement during our treatment without replacing the brackets. Okay, we also can reduce and avoid the use of extra needed accessories such as ATP, such as mini screw, and etc. The mechanics become more simplified, as I told you, because I'm just using one bracket and 2 wires, and it's more comfortable mechanics for me and for my patient. So imagine that you, by not use like mini screw or something else, you actually are reducing the kind of accessories during your treatment. That is a great thing for us and for our patient. And we have a great diversity of arch wires because as we have 2 slots, you can use whatever wire that you want at the same time. Okay, so I just wanted to say, you guys, that we don't have the key to all the questions, but we still looking up, and we still investigated to trying to find out the pieces to fit each other. I wanted to thank all of you, and I want to give you this contacts. I want to thank my collaborators, that is KODEN. Here is the contact of them if you want to contact them and reach me. Thank you KODEN is our collaborator on India, and they trust us this work that we are working together. Thank you so much, guys, for everything. Okay, don't forget, guys, to smile. Okay, every time, be happy. And I want to end by quoting just two phrases that I really love and has all about this lecture. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, and you have to make everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. So believe me, this is all about simplicity. What I told you guys here today, actually, it's about simplicity. Okay, so thank you so much to everyone for this great opportunity, and I hope you enjoyed as much as I enjoyed here. Thank you, iOS, for this great invitation, and I'm very pleased, very happy for being here today with you guys. So I really wish you all the best, and I hope I could help you and I could add something in your life. Bye bye.